Hi, my name is Sanna Anderson and I'm one of the nutritional therapists at the Optimum Health Clinic. Today's video is all about what sort of symptoms to look out for if you suspect adrenal fatigue and adrenal dysfunction might be an issue for you. I have a previous video where I talked a little bit more about what we mean by adrenal dysfunction and how it may be related to fatigue-related conditions. So today is less about theory, more about what sort of symptoms to actually look out for. So let's talk a little bit more about symptoms, basically. When I take the client history at the start of the nutrition work, which tends to be quite a lot of information, I also keep a bit of a mental tally of stressors that my client may have accumulated over the years. Sometimes the stress has been a very obvious burden for them, and they're able to identify various different psychological stressors, particularly, that they feel have been perhaps even a trigger for their fatigue-related symptoms. For others, there may not be much stress historically, but becoming ill and the subsequent fatigue-related diagnosis is often quite a big stressor and could now be further sort of increasing, exasperating their symptoms. It's very stressful being ill with something that isn't always very well understood. So even if the stress wasn't something that pushed you towards fatigue, it often becomes a bit of a factor when it comes to the ongoing symptoms. So what sort of different issues and imbalances are we talking about that we could see as a result of increased stress burden? Energy fluctuations are very common. They usually respond to eating, so that's our cue to think about blood sugar fluctuations. Healthy adrenal glands can help smooth those over a little bit by releasing cortisol, which in turn helps to release energy from storage. But if you are suffering from adrenal dysfunction, the cortisol release may not be quite so efficient anymore, taking you on that bit of a daily roller coaster of blood sugar ups and downs. Other common complaints that I hear a lot of are various different digestive issues. In an acute stress response, digestive enzyme production gets suppressed. However, when we're talking about long-term stress, suppressing your digestive enzyme production is really not going to be particularly helpful because we very much need those enzymes to break down the foods that we're eating. And this is something what I see a lot in my clients. Many report suffering from constipation, bloating. And the other problem, of course, after that is that if your digestive function isn't working optimally, then you may, over a longer period of time, start suffering from nutrient deficiencies as well. Another area where the adrenal dysfunction can play a role is definitely the immune system. It's quite useful to remember that cortisol, which is produced by the adrenal glands, is a natural anti-inflammatory hormone. And in healthy bodies, it can very much help maintain a good balance between pro and anti-inflammatory immune messengers. We need both. We need a little bit of inflammatory messengers, but we also very much need that balancing anti-inflammatory side to that same coin. Another classic symptom of adrenal dysfunction is difficulty getting up in the morning, regardless of how long you've slept. This is where we're talking about that tiredness and fatigue that doesn't reduce by resting, that it's often talked about in fatigue-related conditions. So in the mornings, hopefully, you would have generated enough cortisol to be able to get out of bed and face the day. However, if your adrenals have been overused over a long period of time, then that regeneration overnight may not be happening optimally. And basically what you see is difficulty getting out of bed. If we talk about blood pressure, then the other area that's linked to this is postural hypotension. Basically, fancy word for feeling dizzy if you get up too quickly. Often in long-term stress, your ability to control your blood pressure is not quite optimal anymore. And if you change position from sitting to standing or from lying down to sitting, even just sitting, that would require a change in blood pressure too. And if you do it too quickly, we've all been there, your body can't quite keep up and you end up feeling dizzy. Happens to most of us at some point, but it's often much, much more marked in people who are also suffering from adrenal dysfunction behind it all. Stress tolerance is also very often affected. Basically, no longer much of a tolerance to stressors. Little things that didn't bother you much could really be getting to you by now. You might feel anxious a lot of the time, or notice that if something even mildly stressful happens, it completely wipes you out. Again, this comes back to the depleted adrenals that may no longer be able to respond in an appropriate way when you are presented with something stressful. Many women also report having lots of increased premenstrual symptoms, or could be sometimes even changes to their cycle length. It's helpful to remember that sex hormones share the same raw materials with stress hormones, which basically means that if you are looking at individuals with prolonged stress, much of that joint raw material may have actually been directed towards the stress hormones produced by the adrenal glands. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea that stress can definitely have a very wide-reaching effect on many areas of the body, and particularly long-term stress. From my point of view, the important thing is to take a detailed client history and be very clear about all the various symptoms which can all give us clues about adrenal involvement. But I hope you found this useful. I hope it maybe gave you a bit of a checklist against which to compare your symptoms. And if you want to find out more, you can always visit our website at theoptimumhealthclinic.com.